Welcome to my channel. If we haven't met before, I'm Karri Gregor, the Artist Engraver.
Ma'am?
I'm so glad you could join me. Today I am hand engraving a Ruger Red Label shotgun. Let's get into it. This would be a super long video if I showed you everything that I did, so that's not going to happen. What I am going to do is make sure that you understand how I do the drawing process and how I do the engraving, so you're going to see plenty of those kind of things. This is the design. When I first was talking back and forth with the owner of this piece, he said he wanted a dove and a quail in flight. And so I drew this to get an idea if this is what he wanted for the birds. First off, before I added any of the other stuff around it, not going to waste my time if he wants the birds changed. Good thing I did, because he didn't like it that they were both going the same direction. Normally in the design of a piece, I try and make the animal's face down the barrel, but this owner decided that he wanted something different. When someone asks for engraving from me, they get what they want with the style, knowledge, and design experience that I have. Most of what you will see in this video is one side of the gun being engraved. I try to duplicate that on the other side as close as possible. Of course, when it's hand engraved, there's going to be differences because it's not a machine manufactured piece. The scroll around the edges has been drawn and the scene has been sketched out. So this is the sketch that the owner of this piece received, and then he had to approve whether I could cut it or not. Here is the scene sketched out on the other side. The owner thought that the sky looked a little bit bare, that we needed some dimension, which was funny because that was what I had in the original, the first drawing. I had some things, some clouds in the background. I wanted to push the dimension of the landscape. I hadn't shown it to him because I thought it looked a little cluttered. But once this sketch came and he had the same feeling, well, we decided to put something in the sky and behind the birds. This looks good with the birds off in the distance, but they don't look like quail or doves. It looks like seagulls. And that was not going to work. The trick is to make the birds look like they are off in the distance. This is the part that I had already cut, and as we discussed, that sky in the back looked a little bit bare. So I'm going to put on my Chinese white watercolor paint and sketch in some dimension with the birds and the clouds. Have to tap this until it is smooth like paper.
Hey, smooth is smooth, baby.
I looked at some birds online to get an idea, and as you can see, I'm using my phone here in the shot. I'm looking at it with my goggles and everything, so the light is, that's on my visor, those lights. They kind of flicker around. But this is how I just drew in some birds from the various poses that were on my phone here. It's a demonstration of how everything is hand drawn, so it's not going to be exactly the same as the other side. It's a beauty of being a handcrafted piece. So I put in 3 birds and a cloud. There we go. And took a picture of it and sent it off for approval. I did something a little different with this design. I put the scroll in opposite corners and had it kind of fall along one side. So the scroll is very similar and then turned upside down and put on the other side. It's going to be a little different because of the way the gun is laid out. I have to fill different negative spaces, but this is sort of a different way of doing it instead of framing the entire picture with scroll all the way around. This has an openness and a little bit of a modern look to it. This is my Lindsay Air Engraver, and I just have to give it a shake for it to start. Get that hammer going in there with the compressed air, and let's get going on the scroll. So I'm starting on the outside pieces of the gun, the edging, the border first, because as I handle this, I can rub off the drawing, and so it's best to go from the outside in, and then I don't have to worry that I'm going to be, rubbing off some of that scroll and by starting with the birds. So this is preservation of the drawing. Now here you can get in right close and see how I'm going around with the graver, and I move the vise with my left hand. So this is a real two-handed operation. I can adjust the way the bevel falls. It's a V cut, so by twisting my wrist, the bevel goes one way or the other on the cut, and so I want the cut going a certain way when I go around a curve. This is a particularly long one, going all the way around, and you can see that nice curl of steel coming off of there. So I control the bevel and the direction with my right hand, and I move the vise, move the piece into the graver with my left. It's kind of like trying to write something on a piece of paper and moving the paper into the pen. So it takes a lot of coordination. Another thing that I will mention is I like to have the guns disassembled as much as possible, and you can see why, because I have to turn every time I go around a corner, I go around a scroll. Ooh, nice piece of steel come off there. Where was I? Every time I go around a corner, I have to rotate the vise and have the piece go around. So that means I do not want to have the stock on the back of this piece, because you can see this is going to be going into my side or into my stomach. You have to watch out for obstacles all the way around. I've had it when it was hitting the camera as I was trying to film. It's such a mess to deal with. So I have the stock off, but that means all the workings of the gun are exposed to the filings or the little bits that are coming off. So I wrap the gun in some plastic wrap. Prevents anything from falling down into the workings of the gun. So every turn is a rotation, and I'm moving that vise all the time with my left hand and guiding the work into the graver. I'm sorry if sometimes the engraving process goes in and out of focus. This is a one-woman show, so I set up the camera as best I can, and I'm not going to sacrifice the quality of the engraving just to get a better shot. Now, I am all in on this piece and making it as good as I can for the client. The scroll is off to the sides mostly, and very little is on the top and the bottom. It's kind of almost asymmetrical. The benefit of this design is that the scene with the birds can actually be made a little bigger, because I don't have to accommodate, a 1/4 inch or more of scroll on the top and the bottom, which would mean that the birds had to be smaller. So I like this design. It does have a little bit more of a modern flair, but this is a classic Western or old scroll, and so it's not too modern. Very clean, something quite different. our final bit, taking off the burrs. You have to watch out for any burrs, and this looks like the scroll around the outside is done. I have to feel it, check for burrs. I can take this off with the graver. Nice. My graver. My graver's bit, the graver has got a wide angle to it. I've had to sharpen it several times while I've been doing this. Didn't show you that part. This is the sharpening tool that I use, and you can see the angle on this is quite wide. That is for doing the scroll. You get a nice bright cut with those wide surfaces. I'm going to switch over to a sharper angled cut, sharper angled graver, and you can see the difference here. One's wide, one comes more to a point, and that is for doing the birds, all the detailed work in the background. Well, the birds and the background. Now here I have drawn these birds into my computer, and this way I can get them as close as possible on either side. I have printed off a version of this so I can have it right by me when I am cutting, because a lot of the little fine lines I'm not going to be able to do. This is not that Bellino that you can do where it's a photo representation. This I want to have these birds just close, so while I am cutting them, I have the drawing to refer to. I have to make choices as I go along here because the drawing is much finer than I'm going to be doing with this graver. I could do something that was quite detailed, but it really would be hard to read with the naked eye. And so as I am cutting, I am discerning what lines to keep, what lines to get rid of. So it's it's very much of a discerning process. I try and draw it as close as I will be to cutting it, but there still is, once I get actually on the piece, the deeper you go with a cut, the wider the cut will be. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted a sharper angle for the detailed work and for working on the birds, because we want to have not as wide cuts, but we want them to be fairly deep. And this is a V cut. It's not a square cut. This is a pleasure to work with. And the results of the V cut are so brilliant because you can catch the reflection of the light with that V cut and really make use of the bevels. I'm constantly referring back to that little piece of paper that I have there so I can discern which to emphasize and which to reduce as background, how to do the cross hatching as I decide which feathers to emphasize and which ones to not emphasize, to put in the background or to recede. Doing wildlife is very interesting to engrave because you can engrave the lines as dark, and it still looks okay when you show the piece because the light will either make it be in shadow, the lines be in shadow, or you can have it so that the background is dark and the cuts are brilliant, and it looks all right. Now when I do portraits though, it's the reverse. You want always the portraits, what you're cutting, to be in shadow, in dark. If you don't, then it really looks funny because the eyes are white, or it looks like a negative of the person. So it's interesting. It depends on the subject as to how I carve the light and dark pieces. Here we are doing all the detail, the little bits of pheasant, or that's the dovetail, and the feathers on there. Now I'm going to be doing the trees, the bushes in the background, the grass, all with this sharp angled engraver. There we go. Feeling to make sure that I've got all the burrs. I think there's a few burrs there on the dove. So I'll probably go in and take them off. But first I am going to remove the white paint and the sketch. Just with a little dab of water, it comes off. Little drop of water and then just rub it with a cloth. And you can see the engraving emerge. Done. I'm going to do some dotted background, some relief work on the scroll. It's always hard to get good film of the dot work. I've got a punch it's produced by Engraver, and I use a hammer and I hit the hammer. Every one of those dots is a hit of the hammer. And it's hard to see though because my fingers are always in the way. I'm guiding the punch it's not really a punch. I'm not sure exactly what you want to call that. But it does a nice little dot pattern or donut. Very small little donuts and dot pattern. And this way I can give that idea of relief without cutting out metal. You know, anytime that you are cutting, it's time and it's money, and it takes a lot of time to cut out around the scroll and create a relief. I can get pretty much the same effect using the dots for a background. You see how that really pops the scroll? You can see the shine of it, and it gives some relief effect without cutting out a bunch of metal. Dotted background, terrific idea, and very cost effective.
I tried to teach him. Saves time and money.
I'm taking the piece out of the vise, and this gives me a chance to show you the vise. There's the vise very quickly. I guess I didn't take any other shots of it. It's a round ball vise. You have to watch some other videos to get a shot of that. This video is going to be long enough. I wasn't going to show the vise as well. I'm going to clean up some of the paint. Is gone down to the underside, so get this generally cleaned up and polished, and then we'll have a good look at it. There, I've wiped it all down and cleaned it up, and I'm putting it back into the vise because I feel some burrs. I just felt, especially like on the dove, I mentioned it before, and here I'm going to go in with my visor and my monocle and check, yeah, there's something that is raised. It's not nice and smooth. So I'm going back in with the graver. I have to give it a shake to get it going. And then I'm coming in there and just taking off those little raised burrs, because you don't want those on an engraving. They can snag on things, and it's just not good form, I guess. You want something that's fairly smooth. You want to be able to feel the bumps and feel the engraving, but you don't want something that's going to catch and cut your finger. So I'm just going in there and taking a few of those burrs off.
Slow, smooth, smooth is fast. Let's see it.
There we go. All done. And this is, you can see the dark lines. Depends on how the light catches it. If you are interested in having some engraving done at some time, please drop me a note via email. You can find the address in the About tab on my YouTube channel. You can find other social media connections in the description below the video. So please follow me, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. The owner sent the forearm with a little bit of metal here that touches the receiver. So I'm going to do a little bit of trim on this bit of this metal that is going to be near the receiver. So it has to suit what I have drawn on the receiver part. Of course. I've got my notepad and my circle template. I've measured out what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to just put a little bit of like bud scroll and a leaf going up the side here. It's going to match the leaves and the scroll that are on the receiver. This has to be all carefully measured out, and I have to be able to repeat it on the other side. I use this circle template to do the scroll part, so they are always the same size. And then at the end, I'm going to draw a nice leaf. I'm sorry my visor lights sometimes makes it a little bit hard to see, but I have to be able to see it to draw. Here I'm sketching in the leaf and taking notes for the other side. It'll be a mirror image of what I'm doing on this side. So we have buds going up the side and ending with a leaf at the top. This is the sketch that the owner saw. He approved it and I cut it. This one was cut. I'm going to show you how I cut the other side, but there you go. Look at that. It's very nice. You see how the light catches it? So nice. Okay, we're going to do the other side, and I'm going to be using the notes, and there you go, sketched out on the other side. Here, I'm shaking my graver again to get it going. There, you can see there's a tube that feeds the air so that the hammer moves with the air compressor. I operate the airflow with a pedal at my foot. It's kind of like running a sewing machine. So this is really a very big process where I'm cutting with one hand, rotating the vise with the other, and operating the air with my foot. So, you know, might as well be playing a pipe organ, I guess. So many things involved. Here you get to see a nice close-up of me cutting those bud scrolls. I have to go all the way around. Now, you may notice that when I pause to move my hand, I stop the graving and hold it still. So that's very important. You have to stop it. Okay, we're going up into the scroll. There we go. Now let's do how the other circle is done. I'm going to go the other way with this one. I am trying to keep that forearm away from my body. So actually, I think at one of these takes it hit the camera, but I'm not going to put that one in there. So much to work around. And here you see, you know, this is the problem. It was focusing on my fingers and not on the work. There. Now, you're going to see how I have to go all the way around, and this means I have to get my body out of the way or push back. Yeah, I'm stopping there and I'm moving it to get around the circle. And you see here, the forearm is going right into my stomach. And I've kind of got to get around that and then come through to finish the circle. I try and keep it away from my body as much as possible, but it takes a lot of planning to be able to do this and keep everything in motion. I also have the air tube coming up to the graver that gets hooked on things. We've just got a lot of things in motion that you have to be coordinated to be able to do this. Let's just watch how this leaf gets finished off. We're coming around the tip of the leaf, and it's going to hit my body. I have to move my chair back. Oh, the rolls are stuck. There we go. Okay, got the chair back. Coming back in there. I have to get my graver settled in the cut where it was. And come around so that forearm is going right against my stomach, and There we go. Not too bad. Oh, a little bit here on the bottom. And then I think we need to have the striations or the veins on the leaf there. Just those little markings. And then we will be done. Let's take off the watercolor paint and the pencil and see what we have left. Once you take away all the drawing part and you get to see how brilliantly it looks as it gets reflected back at you. Oh, that's gorgeous. That looks great. See how the light catches those cuts? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up like button below and leave me a comment. It really helps me out. Please check the description below the video for the links to the website, TheArtistEngraver.com, Instagram, and Facebook pages. Next video, I will be engraving a pocket knife. So, while you are down there, leaving a comment, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you will know when that metal cutting video is posted. Thank you for watching.